Hey, welcome to my channel. Well, this is going to be an interesting topic today, but before I get started, let me just say this. Today is the 6th of May, 2018. That means that whatever I discuss in this topic today is, well, relevant today. So if you're watching this video in 2 months from now, probably not as relevant, so keep that in mind before posting any comments below. All right, so back in February of this year, I made this video about how DJI became the dominant drone company that it is today. And since there's very little competition for DJI today, what other options do you have out there? And by having very few options, that means DJI can sit back and not really produce anything new. What DJI will tend to do is just take existing technology and slam it into another type of drone and call it something else, but it's really not a new generation. And this is why we should be thankful for the AUTEL EVO, because it brings a tiny bit of competition to the foldable drone market within the price category that DJI has been dominating for so long. Now, the AUTEL EVO is 100% not a Mavic killer. The Mavic will always be the dominant drone. However, the AUTEL EVO is something that you would definitely consider. Now, this competition thing goes both ways. There's competition for DJI and there's competition for the smaller companies that compete with DJI. Matter of fact, the smaller companies have a lot to lose. And that's kind of the story of AUTEL. Let me tell you about that. So back in 2004, there was this company in China, Shenzhen, China. They were called AUTEL Intelligent Corporation, and they needed a home port in the USA because they had plans to launch little UAVs for consumers. So they just looked around and they bought this company called Copter Shop, and they turned that into AUTEL Robotics USA. So AUTEL Robotics USA is basically just a subdivision of the larger Chinese corporation, but it focuses on consumer-grade UAVs. So back in 2014, when this was all established, they had to come up with some sort of UAV. And the plan was, let's look at DJI, they have the Phantom out, and let's make a clone that is much less money and has really good capabilities. Hence the X-Star. And that X-Star was launched back in the year 2016, and it did really well. It was really doing well, and AUTEL was making lots of money, and they had tons of employees until DJI launched the Mavic. And guess what happened when that happened? Well, all these smaller companies like AUTEL, they suffered. In 2017, they were laying off people, and they said, you know what, we've got to make a Mavic. So they started making a Mavic clone back then. And guess what? The year is 2018, and hence we have the AUTEL EVO, the Mavic clone, which brings me back to this competitive portion. To stay competitive in this drone market, you have to make something that consumers want. You either make something new and take a chance, or you make something that already exists. AUTEL makes something that already exists, and they just try to make it a little bit better in a different way at a lower cost. So I bet you're asking yourself right now, if the AUTEL EVO is just a clone of the DJI Mavics, there's a Mavic Air and a Mavic Pro, then why the heck would I buy an AUTEL EVO and not a Mavic? Because the Mavic's the original. Why would I buy a clone? Well, the reason is because the AUTEL EVO has some really good specifications. Hey, I don't have an AUTEL EVO today, so I can't really tell you. But I have looked at the AUTEL EVO user manual, I've looked at their specifications, and I gotta say, it's pretty impressive. And the price point is $999. So I've got a little sheet attached to my camera right here, and it's got all the features that I think are really cool on the AUTEL EVO, so I'm gonna read them off to you right now. So the first really cool feature is the range. It matches the Mavic Pro of 7 kilometers or 4 miles. But what's a little bit different is that they operate on a different spectrum, and I don't know how they do this. So they have the 2.4 gigahertz spectrum that we're used to, but they also have the 900 megahertz spectrum. I don't know if I'm reading that right. And it also says that it's user selectable. You can jump from one to the other or have it happen automatically. They've also added a sport mode, and it will be the fastest of all the drones out there that are foldable. It can actually go 45 miles per hour, which is 72 kilometers an hour. Flight time is listed at 30 minutes, which we all know is going to be less than that depending on how you fly. And the batteries are smart batteries, which is pretty good. Now I have to mention the camera on the AUTEL EVO because that's what most people will be comparing. As soon as that thing is launched, you're going to see tons of videos of people comparing the camera against the Mavic Pro and the Mavic Air. So the camera is pretty good. It does have a smaller sensor like on the Mavic Air and the Mavic Pro. However, it's got a processor in it that allows it to shoot at 60 frames per second. So that is something that most of us, we always put ND filters on our cameras and slow down the shutter. Well, if you're flying really fast and you want some really smooth footage, 60 frames per second is really decent. In addition, it's actually got a chip, an Umbrella H2 chip, which means that the dynamic range is actually increased. So for once, on these tiny little drones, we're going to actually see some nice dynamic range. It'll look really good in the early mornings and the late evenings when you're filming. Now, I don't know what the bit rate is on the AUTEL EVO. It doesn't say it in the specs anywhere that I saw. If someone knows what the bit rate that it records at is, please post it below. Now, people are probably wondering about the aperture on this camera. Is it a fixed aperture or is it non-fixed? Well, back in January, when you watched the videos of the AUTEL EVO at CES, the pre-production model, that had a non-fixed aperture. If you looked really close, you could see that a lot of times it had like a 2.8, f2.8 all the way up to f11. But in the release version that we're receiving, it looks like it's a fixed aperture at f2.8. Now, one thing you'll notice in the future when people start comparing the AUTEL EVO camera to that of the Mavic Air and the Mavic Pro, you're going to notice that the AUTEL EVO has a really wide field of view compared to those other two drones. What this means is if you get close to an object, you can see more of it. But when you're farther away, you're going to get huge landscape vistas. Some people like that. Some people don't like that. You'll have to check it out and try for yourself. This feature I really like on the AUTEL EVO. It's sort of like the Mavic Pro. The Mavic Pro, you do not need a tablet or a cell phone to fly it because you have a tiny little display on your controller, which gives you all the telemetry that you need when you're flying. On the EVO, on the tiny little 3-inch OLED screen that's on the controller, it gives you the telemetry, but it also gives you a video view of exactly what your camera's seeing, so you can switch between the two, which is really cool. Like the Mavic Air and like the Mavic Pro, it has smart obstacle avoidance. It will go around objects automatically if it has to. And the same is true for when it's in return to home mode. It will go around objects as it's making its way back home, which is a really nice feature to have to save your drone. It even has precision takeoff and precision landing, just like all DJI drones. And it even uses that technology for flying indoors. So it has stable flight indoors, which is a nice touch. Now, one thing the AUTEL EVO app has that the DJI Go 4 app does not have is it will have mapping and waypoint abilities. So with DJI, if you want that, you're going to have to move up to the Litchi app or whatnot, but this will come standard in the AUTEL EVO app. Now, AUTEL as well decided not to include no-fly zones. So that means you could be standing right by an airport and fly your AUTEL EVO, which could be kind of dangerous for the drone industry. But AUTEL says the reason we did that is because we want first responders to be able to use our drone and fly it no matter where they have to fly it to help people and not have to worry about restrictions. And of course, the best feature is you get all that for $999. Now, right now, if you pre-order, $999 gets you the drone, and it gets you some spare props, and it gets you one battery plus the charger. In the future, possibly in a month, they'll have the second SKU, that's SKU number 1. The SKU number 2 is going to be coming out, and you'll get the AUTEL EVO, 2 spare batteries, a hard case, a multi-charger, spare props, and there's probably something else I'm missing anyways. And don't quote me on this price, but this is the price I found on the internet, so you know the internet could be wrong. $11.99 for all that. When is that one going to be out? Could be out at the same time as the initial version is out. So now you're asking yourself, wow, this AUTEL EVO sounds pretty cool. Maybe it is the perfect drone. Well, I have a few reservations with this drone already, but they're extremely minor. Trust me, these are just minor, and this is just me reading the specs, and these are the first things that came to my mind. Unfortunately, there's no onboard memory like the Mavic Air. That's a nice touch that DJI added to the Mavic Air, and I'm sure DJI is going to add that to all future drones. The AUTEL EVO is a rather heavy drone. It's not a light drone, and it's not a tiny drone like the Air or the Mavic Pro. If you look at the weight of the AUTEL EVO, it weighs more than a Mavic Pro, and I don't mean just like 1 or 2 grams more. It's like 100 grams more, if not more. So being larger, this means that when you fold it up, it's not going to be as portable as a Mavic Air, and it won't be as portable as the Mavic Pro. It doesn't mean it's going to be a pig, but it just means that it's going to be a little bit larger and weigh a little bit more. And because it's larger, it's going to need larger props to take off. So the props are a little bit larger than that on the Mavic Pro. So does this mean it's going to be just as noisy as the Mavic Air, or nice and quiet like the Mavic Pro, or will it be somewhere in between? No idea. One thing I found interesting is the display on the controller. Since it's an OLED display, that is the best display to have out in the sunlight. And it's just over 3 inches in size. The ability for it to display in bright sun is, I think, around 300 to 400 nits, which is not great on a bright sunny day when the sun is right overhead, so you're probably going to have to get some shade. So the cool thing when I saw people using the AUTEL EVO outdoors is your phone or tablet goes in front of your controller, unlike the DJI controller where the phone or tablet sits in the back on the Mavic Air and the Mavic Pro and the Spark. So since it sits in the front, it actually, if it's tilted up, can kind of act like a sunshade. So I don't know, maybe that's why it's designed that way. And my final thought on buying a non-DJI product would be the third-party accessories. When DJI makes a product, well, it seems like everybody out there makes an accessory for it, no matter how ridiculous it is. But when a non-DJI company makes a product, not so many people make accessories because they don't know if they'll be able to make their money back. But if AUTEL has a hit on its hands with the AUTEL EVO, there's going to be a lot of accessories. So in summary, if you're looking forward to the AUTEL EVO, well then you are going to get yourself a fantastic drone, because I can see nothing that is a major negative with this drone. Everything is really, really positive. It's going to be a good drone. If you have not considered the AUTEL EVO, then I think you should probably consider it. And if you're waiting for the Mavic Pro 2, then if I was DJI, I would launch the Mavic Pro 2 sometime around the time that AUTEL launches the EVO. That way, the EVO's out there, people are thinking of buying it, they've already got their money, they've already pre-ordered, and the ones who haven't pre-ordered are about to buy it. And then DJI comes out with this new product and you go, not so fast, I'm going this way. Now, if you want to know more about the AUTEL EVO, check out the AUTEL website. And if you want to check out the user manual for the AUTEL EVO, I'll post it below. Now, this is a pre-release user manual, so it's probably going to change when the actual AUTEL is released. Well, would you consider buying the AUTEL EVO? If you would, post a comment below. Let me know what you think. And for the company AUTEL, feel free to send me an AUTEL EVO. I would love to have one and I'd love to review it. You can find my contact info on this channel. For everyone else, thanks for watching. Hope you enjoyed this video. If you did, please hit that like button. And if you're not a subscriber to my channel, then please subscribe, because I have weekly videos of drone technology. Thanks for watching, everyone. We'll catch you in the next video.